Greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, Robert Meyer Burnett. I invite you to watch and listen to the Designing Hollywood podcast, brought to you by Martika Ibarra and the great, legendary Hollywood costume designer, Marilyn Vance. I am afforded the wonderful opportunity of co-hosting the show. If you are interested in the magic of Hollywood, the design of Hollywood, the clothes of Hollywood, watch the Designing Hollywood podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts from, or find the video version on YouTube. That's right, the Designing Hollywood podcast. Why would you ever want to miss it? Especially if you love the movies. Well, greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, your master of fun and wonder, your viceroy of verisimilitude, your pharaoh of physical media. Call me whatever you want, Robert Meyer Burnett, and this is Let's Get Physical Media, episode 83. I guess I'm flying solo today by no fault of Dieter's, only of my own. I was going to go to Las Vegas with Justin from Justin's Collection, who was there for the reveal of the in-art action figures. The Tiffany, actually the Lamborghini of action figures. They had an event in Las Vegas. I was going to go with him. Couldn't go because of family reasons that came up, which was very frustrating. But Justin did a great job. You must go to Justin's Collection and see. I mean, to be honest, I guess I can say it now. I went into L.A. on Thursday night, and we had dinner, and I got to hold and play with the InArts collection, and I saw Batman, the Joker, the Battinson Batman, the Joker, and Gandalf and Aragorn, which I didn't even know Aragorn was coming out, and Pennywise, and watched Justin shoot some videos. He did some great videos. You can see those on his channel, on Justin's Collection on YouTube. So check that out. And as a result of that, Dieter didn't realize, and I was bad communicating, so that's on me. He thought we weren't going to have a show because I was going to be in Vegas. But I decided to do it anyway because, okay, let me just tell you. So it's not entirely set up because we don't have, I need a home, I need a component. We're getting a shelf where the center channel goes. But Elizabeth and I set up our media room. The LG 65-inch 4K OLED has been mounted to the wall. And in our movie room, we watched Risky Business last night, which she had never seen. And then I sampled some 4K discs as I tweaked the screen. Now, eventually, there's enough room in there that I can actually put a projector. But right now, it's a brand new LG 65-inch OLED screen. 4K screen. And what was interesting is I was able to go through a lot of my 4K discs because I really was adjusting the screen, the LG screen, because I wanted it to, I was looking at it in terms of both Dolby Vision, UHD, HDR, and then also Blu-ray, because they each need really kind of a little bit of tweaking, little different settings. So I was doing that for all three. And it was really interesting. I watched Severin's release of The Changeling in Blu-ray. Now, if you know The Changeling, 1980 film directed by Peter Medak, and it's a great film. If you've never seen The Changeling, it is a perfect Halloween horror film. It's really spooky. It's creepy. It's a ghost story. It stars George C. Scott and his actual real-life wife, Trish Vanderveer. And it's a fantastic film, and Severin's disc is great. But you'll notice something when you watch, and it was especially pronounced coming on the heels of things like Dune and No Time to Die, which is what I was using to adjust the screen. When you're watching a movie like The Changeling, it's incredibly grainy. And the disc is a great recreation of the film, but its grain structure is, I mean, it was a grain storm, as somebody would say, but it's the way it was supposed to be. It's a beautiful, Severin did a beautiful job with the transfer, but it was very, very, it's very grainy, but still, that's what I was using to adjust the screen. And I have to say, you know, at night in our movie room, it was great because there was a big storm. There was a huge storm here last night, so a lightning storm. So there was great, huge lightning crashes or lightning flashes and thunder crashes, and it was a lot of fun to do. It was pouring down rain, and the dogs were all there, and they have a new venue in the house, a whole new room, and Elizabeth and I were quite enjoying it. We're going to start whining about movies this week, probably Thursday night, with Everything Everywhere All at Once. I'm going to set up that show, and so welcome back. Welcome back to Whining About Movies, and we're going to be doing that probably, I don't know how many times a week because with work and everything else, but it's going to be fun. We're going to do things like that. I think I'm going to make Whining About Movies all 4K, so I can really start delving into some of the 4K discs that I own and haven't looked at in 4K, and she was she was blown away by the picture quality of things like Dune, so that was a lot of fun. So we're going to start with Everything Everywhere All at Once, and she's never seen Real Genius, so that will be coming up on Let's Get Physical. I'm all wrong. Next week, Dieter will be back, and we'll be doing another Let's Get Physical Media. I didn't buy anything this week, because it's, hey, sometimes you just don't have any money to buy physical media. And I have a bunch of stuff coming, so that should be here this week. So Dieter and I will have stacks of goodness to talk about. But, I've been having a lot of conversations about what is the point? Why collect physical media still? And, I always like to check around and find a few articles. So I found a few articles about physical media that I wanted to share. And the first one comes from a site I'm really not familiar with called Red Shark News. And it's just a quick article that was published on September 3rd by Simon Wyndham. And the article is entitled, "This is a Big Reason Why Physical Media Isn't Dead." Replay. Watching films from physical media may well still have huge advantages even in a world of Netflix and Amazon. Here's why you shouldn't ditch those DVDs and Blu-rays just yet. Like many people, I have almost exclusively moved towards watching film and television content from streaming services. I largely bypassed the Blu-ray period mainly because I used to be an East Asian action film nut, and at one time I even used to write for a film magazine called Impact about various actors and films from the Hong Kong action film genre. Many of the films I loved never even received a DVD release, let alone a Blu-ray one. And some of the films I consider classics were only available on VHS, and that's where many of my original copies remain. Criminally, it still isn't possible to see a high-quality HD or 4K version of Sammo Hung's phenomenal Pedicab Driver. But while 1970s and 1980s Hong Kong martial arts films might be obscure titles that you would expect to be rare or even impossible to find, there are, in fact, some very well-known films that you simply cannot find anywhere anymore. Sammo Hung versus the legendary Lau Kar Leung in Pedicab Driver. Good luck trying to find an official copy of the film. The other day, my partner needed a bit of pick-me-up film to watch after a stressful day at work, so we decided to rent Trading Places starring Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd off Apple Movies. Easy enough. And there's a load of other classics on there too. But towards the end of the film, I asked Emily if she'd ever seen Cocoon. I hadn't seen it myself in years, and Emily has never been big on films. Name a world-famous actor, and she might never have heard of them. Cocoon won an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor and Best Visual Effects, among many other accolades, along with being the 6th highest-grossing film in the year of its release. So it's not exactly an obscure title. I searched through the Apple library to no avail. I searched through both Netflix and Amazon with similar results. So I decided to do an internet search to find out where I could get it. It turns out Cocoon is not available anywhere. Not on any streaming service, and not even on DVD or Blu-ray, unless you buy one used. I have it. But you can at least track it down if you try. But what's weird in all of this is that the much inferior sequel, Cocoon: The Return, is available to stream. Cocoon isn't alone in this weird situation, however. Want to watch The Abyss? you'll face a similar fruitless search. How about a bit of Arnie in True Lies? Nope. As you all well know, if you've watched this channel for any length of time, there are 4 James Cameron produced films that came from his company Lightstorm that are not available in HD or 4K on disc domestically. And those are The Abyss, True Lies, Strange Days, and Steven Soderbergh's reimagining of Stanislaw Lem's novel Solaris that was first made in 1972 by Andrei Tarkovsky. Now, we talked about that a lot. Strange Days, I do have the German Blu-ray. I have bootlegs of True Lies and The Abyss. I have the original DVD of The Abyss that has both the director's cut, which is essential, I think, and True Lies you can get off. It's airing on various channels on HD. If you ride the Tuna Train, you can get it from them. There's also an Italian Blu-ray disc of it. So they're around, but there's no official great releases. James Cameron's been talking about getting these things released forever. Even The Abyss isn't available on the extended version on 4K, which is a bummer. The reasons why such well-known and popular films are nowhere to be seen on streaming services is a bit of a mystery. Some films have temporary rights issues, quite often relating to music licensing, but that's another discussion. In the case of Cocoon, it seems that it will be a mystery that endures. Despite investigations by some people, including screenwriter John August, an acquaintance of Ron Howard, contacting the director directly, and despite one secretive person saying that it was a music rights issue. The lesson from this is simple. Hold on to those physical copies of films because you never know if it'll be the only way you can watch those movies again. Now, we've talked about this a lot on the show, and this is something, look, I know I don't want to be some tinfoil hat paranoid maniac, but in this day and age, it was very funny when Elizabeth watched Risky Business last night for the first time. She turned to me and she said, "How is this movie not canceled yet?" For those of you who don't know, Risky Business is my favorite teen film of the 80s. It was written and directed by Paul Brickman with the Tangerine Dream score. Great source cues. It's got Prince. It's got Muddy Waters. It's got Phil Collins with the best use of In the Air Tonight outside of Miami Vice. It's a great, great, great movie. But Elizabeth was right. How is this movie not canceled yet? It's about Tom Cruise befriends a lady of the evening and Rebecca De Mornay, and through the plot ends up opening a brothel in his own house when his parents are out of town, getting all of his friends who can't get laid. It's not exactly your standard bill of fare and certainly isn't very politically correct. However, it's a great movie. I worry that in this day and age where people that I thought, that we were all simpatico, free speech, believing in the power of art and why the sanctity of these things should be preserved, I don't necessarily think that anymore. And I think that there are plenty of people out there in the world today, especially younger people, that don't believe in free speech, that would come for your Amazon buy list. Everything I've ever bought on Amazon going back over 20 years is available. You can come to my house and demand to take my movies if you so desired. All that information's out there. Do I think that's going to happen in this country? No. But then again, I never thought that abortion rights would be taken away either. So I didn't think we were a country of people that took away rights. I thought we were people that granted rights. So you just never know what's happening. Now, again, don't want to be that tinfoil paranoid maniac, but just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not out to get you. Remember that. So you never know. And one of the great things, this article mentions Asian action cinema. Well, there's companies like 88 Films, as you know, from Dieter Bastian's collection that has been putting out. They've been doing the Lord's work when it comes to renovating and putting out new stuff. Even Sammo Hung films are coming out now. And there's going to be a lot of more and more Hong Kong Rescue. That is, I guess their first authorized title is John Woo's Bullet in the Head. But it was interesting because I was talking to someone a while ago. Actually, when I was most recently with Justin, I was with a gentleman who worked for InArts, Chinese gentleman, and one of the principals of the company, and I was talking to him about John Woo movies. Doesn't know, he's young. I mean, a lot of the problem here is that the people that love these movies growing up, especially in smaller markets, like the Asian markets that have been predominantly Asian only, unless people in the West are fans like 88 Films is, and they're going out and they're getting these films and restoring them and putting them out, how's anyone going to know that they're there? So anyway, there's another article that I want to read that I liked. And this is a flip side article, but I wanted to share it anyway because I found it interesting. So I want to delve into this. This was July 27th, 2022, and it's on the website filmstories.co.uk. And it was posted by John Abbott on July 27th. When physical media takes advantage of the film collector. Here at Film Stories, we'll champion physical media to our dying days. But the film studios are fully aware of this section of the consumer market. It's not unknown for them to take advantage of the die-hard physical film and video game collector. Who doesn't love a film box set? A collection of your favorite films, a plethora of bonus material, taking you behind the scenes of the most memorable moments, all bound together in the most beautiful packaging, and usually with a hefty price tag attached. I'm sure most of us have upgraded our favorite films as technology has improved. For example, I've owned Star Wars on VHS, video CD, Laserdisc, and Blu-ray. And now 4K. But what about when film studios entice us with tasty extra morsels that encourage us to buy our favorite films in the same format again and again? The idea of a collector's set of films goes back to the physical media days of the VHS cassette. The most basic would simply be a reissue of the existing cassettes housed within a simple cardboard box. At the other end of the scale, for example, there was a special edition release of the Alien trilogy as it existed in 1992. A collection of films, bonus content, and physical items that an Alien fan couldn't resist. The contents couldn't be found elsewhere. The set included the aforementioned Alien trilogy, a copy of The Making of Alien 3, 3 badges, 4 art cards, and a credit card-sized pass which gained you free queue-jumping access to the Alien War experience that was then situated in the bowels of the Trocadero Centre in London. By the way, obviously this is a UK article. This was not released here in the United States. All housed in a black plastic briefcase which was molded to resemble a facehugger gripping on very tightly. Even in the early VHS days, films were still reissued to create market awareness and to try and get the public to purchase them, even if there was no difference to the film on cassette. Take the original Star Wars trilogy before George Lucas started to make his alterations to create the special editions. Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi were each released on VHS around 3 to 4 years after their respective theatrical run. In the early 90s, the trilogy was released again, but this time in widescreen format. A few years later, the films were released again, but this time with a new interview with George Lucas. These were advertised as the last times the original films would be available on VHS. The next 2 releases on video in the following years would be the special editions. Disney were also up to their own marketing tricks, but didn't involve multiple releases. Instead, they simply told the public it's now or never. Released as part of the Walt Disney Classics line in 1992, consumers were told that the restored theatrical edition of the 1940 film Fantasia would only be available in stores for a mere 50 days. This tactic worked. Stores received over 9 million pre-orders on VHS cassette alone, with a further 5 million sales during the 50-day window. Once the jump was made to DVD, the marketing trend started to become even more common. However, the format was new and it needed to find its feet. The first DVDs weren't even ready for widescreen televisions, which resulted in poorer quality pictures for those of us who had made the expensive visual upgrade at the time. That was me. I had a Laserdisc DVD combi player. As a film collector, this new format was exciting. Better picture and sound quality, and it would theoretically never degrade no matter how many times it was viewed. You could jump to any point in the film and didn't need to be rewound once finished. Plus, these shiny new discs now could also include behind-the-scenes and promotional bonus content, which made you feel like you were obtaining more bang for your buck. As time passed, technology improved, and film studios would sometimes reissue the same titles but with improved film transfers. Another chance to pick up your favorite film in better quality. Whilst this was a semi-regular occurrence as time went on, a natural progression of the format, Sony made a big push around 2013 of their Superbit format. The idea behind Superbit was that a DVD was only used to hold the movie with no bonus content of any kind, therefore maximizing the picture and sound quality, allowing the digital information to fill out the entire storage space available on the disc. Upon closer inspection, this did make a difference, but only to those with very large televisions or projectors. Sony were optimistic, though, and released over 50 of their most successful films on this format. Sony tried again with a similar approach to Blu-rays around the time 4K discs were entering the market. They rescanned in some of their most popular films in 4K and then downsized it to HD for release on standard Blu-ray. The new releases, labeled as 4K Remastered, were also tweaked to look better on 4K televisions, especially Sony Bravia models. The issue here was that unless you were tech-savvy, the packaging gives the impression that you're purchasing a 4K copy of the film without having to upgrade your video equipment. In another example, what if the film studio had discovered the much-rumored deleted scenes from the archives, or a documentary has been created with new interviews with the creative team from your favorite films? The Bruce Campbell film Army of Darkness, which was released in the US alone at least 6 times on DVD and 2 weeks ago on 4K, Universal Studios issued the first bare-bones DVD of the film with no bonus material. It was then licensed by Anchor Bay, who released the film a further 5 times at least. This was helped by the fact that there are 2 different cuts of it, each with different endings. At least one set contained 2 discs featuring both cuts, while other releases contained either cut and seemingly new extras upon each release. Tallulah, you can't do that. Don't forget that the same film can be owned by multiple studios across the world. It wasn't uncommon for each studio to hold a different quality copy of the film in the archives. This was one of the many reasons why film collectors like to have multi-region capable DVD players. It allowed them to import DVDs from across the globe. A DVD from Asia could look better than the US release because of the higher quality of the film print. But it wasn't just the bonus content or quality of the film that changed. So did the packaging. Studios like to help promote the release of a new disc title by releasing it in the most elaborate packaging that was related to the film, regardless of how much storage space any of us had. 20th Century Fox, for a while, you have to stop, Tallulah. You have to stop barking, as people bitch and say I'm unprofessional by having dogs bark on the show. Which, let's face it, she's part of the show. She's always been part of the show, just like Gilbert before her and just like Sebastian after her. So you dog lovers that are now getting your ears blown out by Tallulah's ear-splitting barks, I cannot help. I suppose I could kick her out, but hey, what can I say? Tallulah gets to do what Tallulah wants to do. Anyway, they released the heads of Sonny the Robot from iRobot, the Predator, and a monkey from Planet of the Apes. I have those. They were naturally all highly priced limited editions, and the discs for the films were stored in trays and drawers at the base of the statue. In a similar vein, Warner Brothers released a special edition of the Matrix trilogy back in the day. Arriving in a meter-long cardboard box, inside was a model of the Nebuchadnezzar, Morpheus' hovering submarine-like craft from the real world of the future. Who has space for this kind of stuff on their DVD shelves? I don't know. What if your favorite franchise has extended editions and even continues after a hiatus of several years? Case in point, the Lord of the Rings saga. The original Lord of the Rings trilogy was announced on DVD to be coming out in theatrical and standard editions. These were eventually upgraded to Blu-ray and then again to 4K. The same happened to the Hobbit trilogy when that was released on home media formats. Some fans hedged their bets and decided to wait for an ultimate box set containing all versions of all 6 films. Warner Brothers did release a set for an eye-watering $800. This 31 set contained everything that had been released before and one new disc of exclusive content, the collector's hook to get fans to buy the films again. The discs were housed in faux leather books that also contained concept art from the films, and it was all housed in an ornate wooden shelf, apparently designed by Peter Jackson himself. Ironically, if you could forego the one exclusive bonus disc, you could purchase the rest of the set individually for less than a quarter of the asking price. The video game industry has also been releasing large box sets of material goodies to help promote their latest releases. This usually includes a large vinyl statue of the main character, for example. Recently, Sony may have gone a little too far. They have just announced 2 large expensive box sets for their upcoming release of God of War Ragnarok for the PlayStation 4 and 5. Both collector's sets include various physical items that feature in the new video game, including a mini reproduction of Mjolnir in the more expensive of the 2. What does seem to be rather strange is that both sets include a rather fetching steelbook case adorned with beautiful artwork, but there's no physical game inside, just a code to redeem it digitally. Or are they just taking the mickey right now? Well, let me just say, as anyone who has watched this show for any length of time, we love this shit. I mean, I will say this. You know, last week I showed that the Zavi Dr. No Steelbook box set, it's not even in 4K. Let me be clear about this, because a lot of people have brought this up about the show. Like, you guys buy a lot of stuff, sometimes just for the packaging. I guess we're guilty as charged of that. But here's the thing. At the end of the day, the most important thing about collecting physical media is the transfer of the film. That's it. That's all that matters. As long as the transfer of the film, as long as we're getting the best version of the movie. For instance, there has been some controversy over the recently released 4K edition of Friday the 13th. I think, for me, the biggest threat facing the physical media world is when a studio remasters the movie and they bring in colorists who decide to apply modern sensibilities, or let's call it what it is, orange and teal, Basic Instinct, I'm looking at you. If you get the film does not look the way it's supposed to look. And that is incredibly, look, a movie should be preserved in the way it looked best when it originally came out. Now, here's the thing. With our technology now, I just brought up at the beginning of the show, The Changeling. The Changeling is a very grainy movie that's just inherent in the photochemical nature of the origins of the film. However, I don't want to see digital video noise reduction, DVNR, applied to that disc. What digital video noise reduction does is actually blur the image. It blurs the image so the grain isn't as noticeable. It eases back on that so it looks, but it still blurs the image. Or if you put too much digital video noise reduction on people's faces and things like that, they look waxy. We've all seen that. Patton and Predator had those problems when they were first released on Blu-ray, because you have people that don't understand. I mean, here's what happened as we moved into the Blu-ray world. There was a big disconnect between people buying Blu-rays and people selling the equipment, selling the screens and selling the discs, because they would use demo discs like something from Pixar. Well, when something is completely generated on a computer like a Pixar movie is, there is no grain pattern. There's no grain structure at all. So it looks perfectly clear. And when you're trying to sell large-scale, high-definition televisions, you want these images that pop. You know, it's funny. We were watching the new TV last night, and Elizabeth was commenting on how good the logos looked from the various studios in 4K. And I'm like, well, of course they do, because they're all computer generated. There's no grain pattern to them at all. You go back and you watch the old Paramount logo or something on with the Paramount Mountain. I love the grain there. The grain's alive, and I would hate to see a movie that was shot photochemically not have that grain, because that was just part of how movies were made. And there's a lot of people that don't like those things. They want to see that perfect image. They think that a movie that was made 50 years ago should look like a movie that was made last year. And that isn't true. And I think the great thing about what we as collectors want more than anything else is the best transfer of the movie possible. And when you go and look at something, a modern film, for instance, like a Dune is, the 4K disc of Dune is easily one of the greatest presentations of any movie I've ever seen. That doesn't surprise me that the image quality is so great, because, you know, it's new. So you've got the highest, obviously motion pictures have always, the technology has marched ever forward. And when you have great technology, the movies look great. So it's not surprising that Dune is amazing. And a lot of the modern films in 4K are absolutely spectacular. I also love, going back and finding something like a Die Hard and The Matrix, which we've talked about a lot on this show. The Matrix was filmed photochemically. I never liked really the way it looked, even on Blu-ray, because it had an artificial quality to it. And when Warner Brothers finally remastered the 3 Matrix films in anticipation of Matrix Resurrections coming out, you got the film, especially the first Matrix, was shot on film, and so it looked incredible. It had grain structure, and it just looked amazing. It looked far more naturalistic. Die Hard on 4K, again, amazing. And I think that as I'm looking for my Die Hard, I've got to full file it. It's amazing to see films that were done photochemically, remastered in 4K, but remastered properly. So that's what we want, you know. And while I do love getting box sets of movies that I particularly love, whether it's Clockwork Orange or any of Kubrick's films, the reason that I buy box sets, and I think the reason that collectors buy box sets, is because we still believe that movies are special. And to get a box set of a movie that you like, or any box set for your collection that you particularly enjoy, which is one of the reasons I like what Arrow is doing, or what I love with Second Sight is their Dawn of the Dead collection, or Turbine, the American Werewolf 4K disc. I like that certain companies, especially lower, smaller boutique companies, are giving even low-budget genre fare a beautiful treatment and putting them out in beautiful box sets, because it makes the movies feel special. And in a day and age where motion pictures, when you log onto a streaming service, every single movie, it doesn't matter what it is reduced to the same size thumbnail. And it's as if it doesn't matter whether you're watching something like Casablanca or you're watching Troll 2. They each have the same size thumbnail, which means, I guess it's the great equalizer, but I don't believe in that. I'm an elitist snob, and I believe in a meritocracy. And I think if movies have earned it, they should have bigger thumbnails on streaming services. That'll probably never happen, but God damn it, if I ran Hollywood, they would. So that's kind of what I wanted to, bring up. What do you guys think? People are firing in some super chats, and let me get to them. Undead Sick. Our friend Undead Sick. You've been around for a while, Undead Sick. I love seeing when you're in here. Undead Sick says, this is not physical media related, but I want to say it anyhow. I totally love Andor, but having Coruscant without Palpatine, Masameda, or Sly Moore, that is a big no-no for me. Well, that's like saying that like if you were making a movie about Earth, everything would have to have Joe Biden and Vladimir Putin in it. Earth is a big planet. Coruscant's a big place. So, I mean, I'm sure, I would imagine one day Palpatine will show up giving a speech somewhere. The more you tighten your grip, Tarkin, the more Palpatine tightens his grip. By the way, drinking coffee this morning with cream and cinnamon in it. It's delightful. Seattle's best coffee, if anyone wants to know. We were out of our Trader Joe's coffee, so I ran to Albertsons and got this quick so we'd had some. But, I look, a lot of people are talking, there's a lot of talk about Andor, it's not for me, yada, yada, yada. I don't buy into any of that. Sure it is. Sure it's for you. You have to come up to Andor's level. Don't expect Andor to be where you want it to be. It's very rewarding. So, come on, Undead Sick. Keep watching. Maybe Palpatine will show up. Maybe Masameda will show up. Maybe Sly Moore will show up. Who knows? Marcus Bisma has been an imagination connoisseur for 5 months. Thank you, Marcus. Appreciate it. Undead Sick goes on to say, I just want to give recommendations for whining about movies. Those are good ones. Oliver Stone's Platoon and Sergio Corbucci's The Great Silence. I was just reading about The Great Silence just the other day. I did get the 4K of Platoon, so I'll be interested to read that. The Great Silence, I could probably get that. I also ordered a French 4K of Rules of the Game. Renoir's Rules of the Game. I can't wait to get that. I don't know where that is. But Jeffrey Lindenblatt sends in a super chat and says, the music rights issue, I just bought the Quantum Leap set from ViaVision. All the missing music was in the set. For those of you who don't know, one of the things that happened at the dawn of the video era was home video was not anticipated when movies were being made. It's certainly not its popularity. So a lot of the time, source cues are songs. They're also known as diegetic cues. But a source cue is a piece of music that appears within the movie itself, like that characters are listening to. Well, actually, there's two different kinds. So there's diegetic source cues that are actually playing in the reality of the universe. And then there are source cues that we hear in the soundtrack. And those have to be separately licensed. And it's a nightmare. When I made my own independent film, I was able to, when I made Free Enterprise, I had what I called festival rights for all the music I wanted to put in the movie. So I had all these great 80s source cues that I'd use in the film, and I had festival rights for them, but I didn't have the purchasing rights. So we had rights to show them show the movie at film festivals with the anticipation that if we got a sale, then we'd have to buy the music. Well, when the movie got picked up for distribution, the music rights that I would have to pay for free enterprise exceeded the budget of the entire film. It was almost $1.5 million. And free enterprise didn't cost that much, but it was over that. The music rights were over that. So what I had was I had $50,000 from the record company, and we had $50,000 in the budget for music rights. So I had to figure out, how did I turn a $1.5 million soundtrack into one for $100,000? That's what you got to do. But we did get a record deal, and I was able to get songs that I needed for the movie, such as Shriekback's Underwater Boys, Frankie Goes to Hollywood's Welcome to the Pleasure Dome, Duran Duran's Planet Earth, and the Cult's She Sells Sanctuary. But what happened with early home video, like John Carpenter's The Thing, had Stevie Wonder's song Superstition. Knowles is not. No, it's not Knowles. Knowles, the cook. Which one of you put your dirty drawers in the kitchen trash can? He was listening to Stevie Wonder's Superstition. And when the movie came out on home video for the very first time back in 1982, 83, that song was not in the movie. They had to give it a sound-alike. And it was there for a very long time. That sound-alike was there for a very long time. And they didn't, until they could get the rights. Fast Times at Ridgemont High. The home video version has altered music. Miami Vice took a really long time to come to home video because they couldn't get all the music rights, and that was such a big part of the show. It took a long, long time. So even now, I'm a big fan of an 80s TV series called Wise Guy. Wise Guy has been released on home video, except one of their story arcs about Dead Dog Records that like Glenn Fry was in. They've never been able to release it because getting the music rights to pay for those music rights would cost more than they could make releasing the show on video because it's an old TV show. So what that article talked about with Cocoon is probably true. They probably have music rights issues. It was released on video once, but to go back and get it again, maybe the music rights have run out. Hard to say. Don't know. But it is a bummer. No matter what, it's a bummer. Brian Doyle says, "Hi Rob, what did you think of the new 4K Blu-ray label from WB called the Film Vault? Thanks and love the show." I think this is only in Europe, I think. But yes, the Film Vault is a new label of movies. Blade Runner is one of them that is being released with a bunch of new swag, new artwork, that kind of thing, which is great. I mean, because they already have they already have Blade Runner out on 4K, but the thing is, Blade Runner out on 4K only came in a standard Blu-ray case with an O-ring. So the Film Vault, that's good. I have the news of the week, and you know what? I'll pull that up. That's a really great, and show you the pictures. 4K, because it's really interesting what they are doing. So yeah. The Film Vault. And so what they're putting up, well, I'll deal with this. The Film Vault is actually, it's iconic classics, and they're housed in, well, here, let me get the Film Vault. Since you brought it up, yeah, I think that I'm going to, here, let me put up the Film Vault images, and this is good. I'm sorry I didn't pull these in advance, but this is a really good idea to ask. And let me grab it. So this is really impressive. Here is the Film Vault's release of Blade Runner. Now, it is premium collectible. It comes with individually numbered crystal display plaques, branded envelopes containing large format art cards featuring concept drawings, behind-the-scenes imagery, film trivia, and original theatrical poster artwork. And it does have a 4K and a Blu-ray in a copy of the film. And it has a spinner blueprint, and they are limited to 3,000 copies. I mean, hell, from what I know, this might have already sold out. And what's really kind of cool about this is they have created new artwork for these. And for instance, here is the new Blade Runner artwork. It's kind of like a Mondo thing, which I think is really, really cool. But yeah, they're really nifty. So far there's 4 titles as I'm pulling this up. So we have Blade Runner's 1, and hang on, let me grab the other one. Here, well, I'm getting the others. Here is Goodfellas, and Goodfellas same deal. And again, the artwork and these do look. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if these are, and the Vice Press edition comes with a 24x36 movie poster signed by Matt Ferguson and Flory, and they'll be shipped rolled. And this is basically they're following Mondo's, I think, release. But it's pretty cool. Like, if you like these movies, here's the poster for Goodfellas. And they're also releasing Scarface, so it's not just Warner Brothers. And they're releasing 1917. And I have to say, I mean, if you like your movies and you like these special editions, these are all very cool. So what's not to love? And I guess, I'm sure Dieter and I will be delving into these things, because why not? Why not? Because these are going to be like, the last hurrah of things to buy. For instance, here's Scarface. That's cool. Do you need all this stuff? I don't know. I mean, I dream of one day in our house, or if we get another house or move, or I don't want to move, but I'd love to have a bathroom, and in the bathroom, just use, instead of wallpaper, just put up all the swag that comes in these releases, because I think it'd be a lot of fun to do that. Because what good is this swag? We don't take it out; we leave it in the box, which in a way is kind of weird. But it's not like they're big enough to be movie posters. Like they're not 27x41. But hey, man, these are cool, and why not enjoy them for what they are? But yeah, but again, what they've done is they've made this. They've created. I understand they're exclusives, but that's cool. Here's 1917. So these are the 4: 1917, Scarface, Goodfellas, and Blade Runner. So I'll probably get the Blade Runner, the Goodfellas, and the Scarface. I mean, why not? What's not to love? So there you go, Brian. Awesome. And Dieter is here. Dieter Bastian says, when will Scott Adkins be on our show where he belongs instead of the John Campea show? Sorry, folks, for not being there. I can't work as fast and furious as Rob. It's okay, Dietz. I dropped it on you at the last minute. But hey, thanks I love that you have sent in a super chat to your own show. That's what I love about the modern age. So cheers. Not that you haven't supported me enough over the last couple of years, but always nice to be supported by you, sir. Maybe we can get Scott Adkins on the show to promote. I mean, considering we've been one of the biggest supporters of that guy for a long period of time. Tom Jr. Jackson says, bring on the physical media. Thanks, Tom. And Chris F. just sends in support. Thanks, Chris. Binary Sunset Media says, grain gives the image life and texture. Kubrick loved grain. Well, Stanley Kubrick was a photographer. He was a documentary photographer beginning in his teens. He was an incredibly accomplished photographer. And grain was part of the art. He worked a lot in black and white. His first movies were black and white. He loved grain. So, yeah. Our friend Martino Simoni, a great friend of this channel, a man who has helped me out greatly. So thank you, Martino. He is working on what I would anticipate would be the most epic episode of his his Playmobil Star Trek series using his Playmobil Enterprise. We all know that Martino himself has been responsible for me getting Kit from Knight Rider, the A-Team van, and the Aston Martin DB5 from Goldfinger, all in done by Playmobil, in addition to one of the greatest toys ever made, which is the Playmobil Starship Enterprise. And there's also the Klingon Bird of Prey coming out early next year, so have to get that. Although, I understand why they went with the Bird of Prey, but, let's face it, you can't have the Bird of Prey squaring off against the classic Enterprise from the TV series because Well, you know, they never appeared together. What can you do? That's just me. So, Stub McShave says, the Dieter show without Dieter, something's wrong. I know, I'm the second fiddle of my own channel show. That's okay. Dieter will come back. He'll be back. I'll tell you what. Okay, you want to come on this show? Dietz knows I can do this. I'm going to bring a lucky physical media person. Now, if you've never been on the show, if you've been on the show before, please hold back. Hold back. But if you've never been on this show before, if you've never been on the Burnettwork or whatever, you've never been, because I don't think I've ever brought anyone in to Let's Get Physical. Maybe I have. I don't know. But if you want to come, if you've got a good microphone and a good camera and all that, hold tight. I might bring you on this show to talk about the news of the week. So get ready, but be ready, because it's going to happen fast. Stubble McShave sends in a tip and says, I buy hardcovers of books that I read and really like. I buy them for collecting rather than consumption. Of course, I still read the hardcovers, but the first time I read books, it's in a cheaper format. Do you buy films primarily for collecting or consumption? Good question, Stubble. I mean, I buy films. Here's the thing. As a lifelong film lover, this is the 42nd year that I've been buying physical media. As people know, the first thing I ever bought, say it with me now, John Carpenter's Halloween in May of 1980. That was for my bar mitzvah. My parents, that was one of my parents' bar mitzvah presents, and back then it was on Media Home Entertainment before it became Media, Charlie Band's company. He had that and things like Wizard Video, and that tape cost $54.95. $54.95 back in 1980. 42 years ago, Halloween was more expensive on VHS than it is now in 4K from Shout Factory. So that's crazy. Crazy talk, people. Crazy talk. So, 42 years. So the question is, I buy, the movies I buy are anything that I'm interested in. It's my own personal curated collection for whatever reason. Like, I don't buy everything. There's a lot of movies I don't buy. Like, I don't buy a lot of animation. It's not like I don't like animation. I like animated movies, but I don't watch them over and over again to study them. Because there are some movies I just like to watch from a filmmaking standpoint. But now that I've worked in animation with Dota Dragon's Blood, as you know, I was the animatic editor of 3 seasons of the Netflix series Dota Dragon's Blood, which you can watch. Season 3 dropped in August. When I've worked in something, I find myself more interested in looking into it. But making movies themselves, I've been looking at them my whole life. And even I'll watch movies with, like, when I edit movies, I watch movies without the sound on and see if the edits work. And there are times when I'll watch a movie that I love. I've seen the movie a dozen times, but I'll watch it silently and just watch the editing. So I collect movies that I, for whatever reason, know that I will revisit someday. And nowadays, for instance, I feel like it's my obligation when a great exploitation title comes out, like Thriller or Cruel Picture, I'm like, one day someone's going to get pissed. Some young whippersnapper is going to go look at that movie and go, what the hell is this? This is so exploitative and it's so misogynistic and horrible, and it is. But that's why you want it. That's why it's an exploitation movie. So I feel like I have to buy something like, I don't know how many times I'll ever watch Thriller or Cruel Picture. It's not like I can be like, Elizabeth, let's go watch the latest Rape Revenge remaster in 4K. I wouldn't do that, especially the X-rated hardcore version from Sweden. It's not exactly, but I feel obligated to have it. And thank you, Dr. Howard Yang, for making sure I did, because I missed it when it went up for pre-order. And Howard Yang, Dr. Yang, got it for me. So thank you, Howard. And say hi to your lovely wife. She's the best. And your son, who's becoming more precocious by the day. Martino Simone said, actually, I didn't even read his super chat. He said, Rob, thoughtful monologue feels like heaven. Well, a Burnett monologue and heaven, synonymous. What can I say? I'm in the Playmobil cutting room. I love that. So thanks for that. Binary Sunset. Did I read that? I don't know. So Binary Sunset Media says, I find it ironic that She-Hulk tries to call out toxicity, but in itself is just toxic. The audience is just the writer's room. Would a female audience even know or care about internet critics? Not many people would know about internet critics. And that's the funny thing. I mean, I look, I get it. I understand we are a vocal, critical bunch. We've always been critical, but now we've got the internet. I look, again, I feel like I'm always defending, like people are like, Rob, why do you defend toxic behavior? I'm not my brother's keeper. I do not, I believe that I believe in polite society. I believe you should be nice to people. And usually when I try and, when my criticism for something is quite critical, I mean, I try and do it in such a way that it's at least palatable, or I can explain my anger about it. But even the channels that people get mad when I associate with, like, here's what and people don't understand why I respect a lot of my fellow YouTubers that other people don't like. We're all fans. Because at the end of the day, what we want is, we all grew up with these flights of fancy meaning something to all of us. Whether it's Star Wars, Star Trek, Doctor Who, X-Files, I got really angry, for instance, with the X-Files. When the X-Files movie came out, I realized these motherfuckers don't know their own story. They haven't figured it out yet. And that was something, and that was in the late 90s when X-Files came out. The movie came out between season 5 and 6, and I was so into X-Files. My friend Steve Melching was hosting X-Files days, where we were bringing over our X-Files Laserdiscs, and we were watching episodes, all the mythology episodes leading up to the movie. We were all very excited. And when you see that movie, it contradicts so much, and you realize, well, they don't even know what they're, because you as a viewer, like, they must, the authors must know where they're going, right? And like, that was the first time, maybe you could say that maybe the first time I experienced this was Patrick McGoohan with The Prisoner. Like, Once Upon a Time in Fallout, still to this day, what the fuck does that mean? Doesn't matter. Didn't bother me as much, because the rest of the series, there's only 17-ish episodes, and it was an interesting examination of all of that. So that didn't bother me. That Patrick McGoohan left it a little ambiguous. But as we've moved through television, and with things like X-Files, and that was inspiring to shows like Lost, when the creators don't know, like, you get so wrapped up in the show, and you think they're taking you on a journey that's going to lead to some revelatory moments, that you as an audience member are going to be given things that are like, oh, this made it worth my while. Like, when you're reading a great book, like Donna Tartt's The Secret History. I love Donna Tartt's The Secret History. I've read that book like 8 times. Every time I read it, I'm just immersed in that world. I love it. It doesn't let me down. You get to the end of that book, and you're just like, you bask in this story that's told to you, and it means something. And when a lot of these, Star Wars and Empire were amazing. I know people don't understand this, but I think you had to be there. When I was the oldest I'd ever been when Jedi came out, and I hated it. I thought, how did you make this? How did you turn these great science fiction, pop culture, fairy tale, special effects extravaganzas? How you transcended the material with Star Wars and Empire? How did you allow Return of the Jedi to become a goof, a farce that just repeats everything? Yes, I like the confrontation in the Emperor's throne room, and yes, I like the swashbuckling rescue of Han Solo, but the rest of that movie is just stupid, and it's not nearly elevated. I mean, I understand the speeder bike chase is fun, but what does that mean? That the middle of that Return of the Jedi is completely disposable. You could go from the rescue of Han Solo. Luke can go to Dagobah and watch Yoda die, and then he can go confront Vader, and that's all you need. Yeah, is the space battle at the end cool? But there's, so what? Even when the Death Star is destroyed, there's no tension. They do it, they fly out, the Death Star blows up very fast. It doesn't even give you the anticipation that the original explosion did. But anyway, I don't want to get into that. I don't even know what I'm saying. Binary Sunset Media says, got my Blade Runner suitcase, as many people might know. When my friend Charlie de Lazarica's work when he made Dangerous Days, one of the best documentaries ever put out on the making of a movie, when they released Blade Runner as a 5-disc Blu-ray set, all the different versions of Blade Runner with incredible supplementary material. It was like Charlie's life's work. It came with a Voight-Kampff briefcase where you opened it up and it came with swag in it. One of one of the great physical media, very expensive now to find if you can find it. One of the great physical media releases, very, very cool. That's what Binary Sunset is talking about. Eloy Diaz is a new member. He's an imagination connoisseur. Eloy, thank you for becoming a member of the channel. It's very nice of you. Very much appreciate the support. The Alex Zorba also became a member. So thanks for that. Appreciate that. Parth Trivedi says, hope all's well. Cheers. Well, thanks for the support, Parth. Appreciate it. And Dieter Bastian. Oh, look at that. Dieter wants to participate from afar. Hey, he wants to know about the box office for Halloween Ends. Well, boy, here's something about Hollywood that really pisses me off. And I'll tell you what that is. No one seems to learn from their mistakes. So we have learned, Warner Brothers proved this to us, day and date releases, meaning movies come out in the theater and they arrive on a streaming service on the same day, don't work. They undermine the box office and they lessen the value of the movie overall. And once again, Halloween Ends. By the way, I love the division in the fan community over the movie. I haven't seen it yet, but I can't wait to jump in. I mean, I have not liked the new Halloween movies, and I don't blame anybody. I just they're not great. But here's a story, same story we've heard before. When is anyone gonna learn? You'd think people would learn. Halloween Ends. This is from Deadline. Anthony de Alessandro wrote this at 7:45. Posted this at 7:45 this morning. Halloween Ends, opening lower than expected with $41 million. Blame day and date Peacock release as sequel is most watched on streamer. Sunday box office. Now, this is Universal, Blumhouse, and Miramax Trancas's Halloween Ends. Projections for the Universal, Blumhouse, Miramax Trancas's Halloween Ends were expected to come in around $55 million. And the 13th sequel in the franchise, originally created by John Carpenter, is settling at $41.2 million after a $13 million Saturday, off 36% from a $20.4 million Friday and previews. Clearly, tracking didn't account for the theatrical day and date factor. Universal says Halloween Ends is the most watched film or series ever on the platform over a 2-day period. Numbers weren't provided, but note third-party streaming analytics corp Samba TV measured Halloween Kills smart TV viewership over 30 days last year at 2.8 million. 2.8 million households watched Halloween Ends. Halloween Kills last year. Halloween Ends opening is also 8.2 million less than Halloween Kills at 49.4 million, and that sequel opened at a time where there were more big films in the market. Though reportedly a still profitable gross against the film's $30 million production cost, although note in these situations, Universal literally has to pay itself among internal departments, meaning Peacock pays for the streaming rights. Go bend your heads on that accounting. This is something that people don't understand about studios. All the different divisions are different. So one thing studios love to do is invoice between different divisions. So they're paying themselves. So it's all internal. So the Peacock, I mean, it's amazing. Peacock pays for streaming rights to show Halloween Ends. So the parent company, they're paying their own parent company money to stream movies. It's a great way to launder cash, let me tell you that. Or write stuff off, because everything's a write-off. That's where studio accounting comes in. But now they've got streaming, which is a whole different factor. But yes, so it's true. Look, I think Universal left $20 million on the table. $20 million bucks. You don't want $20 million bucks? Nope, day and date streaming. Because look, and we say this on the John Campea show, if a movie does better, the better a movie does theatrically, the more buzz it gets theatrically, the more value the movie has. I think it's inane that Netflix is doing a big push to release Glass Onion, the new Knives Out movie. They're only putting it in theaters for 1 week. Expecting it to what? It's 1 week and it's only in 600 theaters? That to me is a big mistake. And I've had this argument with John many times. We've talked about it on the show. We haven't quite come to blows yet. It is dumb. If Netflix wants to see the viability of a movie in the theatrical marketplace, to have a movie that is a sequel to a successful movie that's made over $300 million worldwide on a $65 million spend, which is what the first movie cost. How do you release a sequel? That movie should make $500 million worldwide. It needs a marketing campaign to tell people it's going to be there. Netflix spent $450 million bringing that franchise in to make 2 more movies. It's dumb. They should go all in. They partnered up with 3 different theater chains. They should spend the money. They should spend $40 million on marketing and release it not on 600 screens, but on 4,000 screens. And they should make themselves $500 million worldwide. Then their franchise, who's not going to go? There's this idea that is false in Hollywood. And let me be clear, talking out of my ass. It is ridiculous to think that streaming services have a finite amount of households, even on the planet Earth, but amongst territories, there is a finite number of households that can stream shows, that will stream shows. I don't even know what that number is in America. Just let's call it 150 million households in the United States. There are only 150. That's not an exact number. I don't know what the number is, but let's just go with 150 million. There's only 150 million households in the United States that is there to subscribe to any streaming services. That's it. That's it. So if a streaming service like Netflix can capture 65 or 70% of that marketplace, that's huge. And there's nowhere to go. And for investors to expect that Netflix is going to see growth all the time that's not sustainable, and it's not realistic. What Netflix has, and again, as an economist, I am not, as anyone who's even good with money, I'm not, but I can at least apply some common sense here. What streamers have that Hollywood has never had is consistency. What you want is your subscription base to stay subscribed to your platform. So you grab 65, 70%, maybe 75%, I don't know, of the marketplace, and you keep it. That's the streaming model. You keep it by putting new programming on there, and so there's no people don't give up. They don't leave your platform. Why is that? Why is that something that is something you want? Because you know consistently that you're going to have this much cash flow every month. Hollywood's never had that before. Never, never, never. You never knew what your cash flow was going to be. For the first time, an entertainment company has stable cash flow through their streaming services, assuming they are making good product. And that's when the theatrical business can put you over the top. And that's why theatrical should be viable. And I think it's still important, at least for me. You people that know more than I do, please get back to me on that and tell me if I'm talking out of my ass. So there you go. Now here's something interesting. I'm going to continue reading on about Halloween. Though reportedly still a profitable gross against the film's $30 million production cost, although note in these situations, Universal literally has to pay itself. As one razor sharp studio, try and say that 5 times, executive points out, it's hard to underestimate the day and date factor. Clearly, despite the fact that Peacock, on which Halloween Ends is also available, is in 15 million paid subscriber homes, a low number next to the competition. Universal's theatrical distribution in its date execution and studio's marketing aren't to blame here. Those departments didn't do anything wrong. Also, don't point a finger at Paramount's third awesome weekend for Smile, only down 33%. With $12.4 million. This is on a film that in 2 weeks grossed $100 million. Note to studios. Why is it that studios have allowed their business model to either become tentpole properties they expect to make $1 billion or nothing? Look at Smile. Smile, a movie reportedly a $17 million spend, not including marketing, has now made, with domestic numbers, $112 million. That's a good business. A studio puts out one of those a month. I mean, yeah, you're not bringing in $1 billion. You're not swinging for the fences, but that's consistency. And if a studio can do that, that's a good business model, and it keeps the theatrical business thriving. Can you imagine? I mean, we need that. Another awesome weekend for Smile, down 33% with $12.4 million. Chances are genre fans are seeing both movies. I don't even think Halloween Ends C+ cinema score is a reason here, the lowest grade in the recent franchise subset trilogy from David Gordon Green. I mean, God, David Gordon Green made 3 movies I'm not particularly fond of. And now he's doing Exorcist? Yeesh. I'm hearing there were great viewership figures on Halloween Ends on Peacock, so some form of cannibalization of the theatrical business is taking effect. Riddle me this, Jeff Shell. So you take a branded film, deflate its optics by making it, by the way, this is from Deadline, by making it day and date with a headlined lower box office number in exchange for financials, streaming viewership, and subscriber numbers, which can't be immediately publicly disclosed, or will be disclosed weeks from now, or will never, or will be leaked to the Wall Street Journal. Remember, Trolls World Tour, near 100 million, puffy number, according to sources. And this is done at a time when the theatrical part of the business is starving and lacking product, and when Wall Street is falling out of love with streaming. It doesn't matter that Halloween Ends is going to gross more than Barbarian or Don't Worry, Darling. Of course it will. It's a franchise movie. Duh. The point is, money is being left on the table. A reminder that the equity players in Halloween Ends are Blumhouse, Trancas, and Miramax, who were bought out whole for this experiment. And Universal is only getting a distribution fee. Essentially, if you think about it, by not going completely theatrical, there's about $5 million which isn't going back to Universal this weekend in pure film rental. Roughly 50% of the picks missing $10 million. I said 20, but okay, 10. Possibly more will be lost as day-and-date movies have a big drop. Halloween Kills plummeted 71% in weekend 2, and that was on Peacock too. Halloween Kills, in regards to its $49.4 million opening, generated under a 2x leg-out factor with $92 million. Whatever NBC Universal makes in Peacock subscription fees is those to keep, not share with exhibition. Right now, there's a deal going on where you can get Peacock for $19.99 a year. So is NBC Universal banking on more than 250,000 subscribers signing up? Will those subscribers stay? Who is your demo by having Halloween Ends go day and date? Older people? Because the 18 to 34 bunch drove most of Halloween Ends business at 62%. The conventional wisdom is that streaming subscribers who sign up off movies don't stick around. They stick around for the series. Halloween Ends is 2.5 stars on Post-Track, 64%. If business slows tonight because of word of mouth, it will also be impacted at the same time on the original streaming services. Not exactly a win-win. Furthermore, filmmakers and content creators don't like theatrical day and date, so even if Halloween Ends is one of the few one-offs from Universal, and granted the studio hasn't as big a fender as Warner Media, they together with Focus do lead all motion picture studios with theatrical releases at 24 for the year, or 20 next year. Read the memo again, Shell. Content creators no gusta theatrical day and date. Christopher Landon, the director of Universal's Freaky, made clear his disdain yesterday as the studio mishandled his movie. Ooh, I didn't read this. Let's read this together, shall we? Freaky director Christopher Landon calls out studios for day-and-date releases after Halloween Ends box office results. Ooh, this is good. Christopher Landon is resurrecting the day-and-date release topic after initial box office results for Halloween Ends have it coming in under studio estimates. The Freaky director is calling out movie studios for releasing movies in theaters and streaming services at the same time. He says, "Ooh, I feel another rant coming on. Today it's the day-and-date release strategy for Halloween Ends. Stop doing this, please. It doesn't work. Studios, stop gambling with filmmakers and their movies to try and prop up your fledgling streaming services," Landon tweeted. Wow, this is great. By the way, Christopher Landon, you're my new hero. So I'm going to read this full tweet that he made. So Christopher Landon says, "Ooh, I feel another rant coming on. Today it's the day-and-date release strategy for Halloween Ends. Stop doing this, please. It doesn't work. Studios, stop gambling with filmmakers and their movies to try and prop up your fledgling streaming services. This happened to me on Freaky, and it destroyed us. We worked so hard to make a fun movie. Blood, sweat, tears. Months away from our families, and for what? They love to use the term 2 bites of the apple, but that's just another way of saying we're going to use your movie as a guinea pig for our streaming service. Sorry, I beg the studio not to do this. Either circle the wagons and protect it for theatrical, or just go all in on streaming. Don't split hairs. At least the Halloween folks were made whole. We got hosed, so yeah. Bitter subject, PTSD. And Christopher Landon finishes off by saying, Dear studios, stop trying to suck 2 dicks at the same time. Honor the sanctity of the theatrical experience. End the rant. God bless you, Christopher Landon, director of Freaky. Come on this show and let's talk about it. He ain't wrong. I mean, here, look, if you have an opportunity to go out to the movies and you've got it on streaming and you've got it here, I mean, look, we are in the middle, by the way, of another, really a great horror renaissance, not just elevated horror. Barbarian and Smile prove that high concept horror still works with audiences. I mean, even Barbarian, which nobody even really knew anything about that movie. Let's see. Let's find out where Barbarian is at right now. I want to know. Because Barbarian, last I looked, had made $38 million domestic, and no one even heard of that movie, and that was all theatrical. So let's take a gander at Barbarian. Okay, where is Barbarian now? Barbarian, by the way, Barbarian has only released in very few international markets. So Barbarian has made worldwide $40 million. I know the movie was shot in Sofia. I don't know what the production budget was. But, yeah, that's pretty damn good. Horror's back. Why you'd hamstring Halloween Ends, I don't know. With also, it isn't just marketing with Halloween Ends. I mean, Jamie Lee Curtis is getting her handprints in front of the Chinese theater. I mean, she's everywhere. So anyway, so Dieter, there you go. There's everything. There's everything you need to know about Halloween Ends and the box office. Hitchhiker 42 says, will Arrow release the original Hellraiser on 4K? Hitchhiker 42, that's a great question. As many people know, on Hulu, the new Hellraiser movie debuted. I thought it was pretty good. I didn't love it. I thought it was good. A lot of good stuff in it. I didn't love it. But one of my favorite Arrow releases, physical releases that I have, is their Scarlet box set. They did a great Blu-ray box set of Hellraiser 1, 2, and Hellraiser 3, Hell on Earth, which is a movie I kind of have an affection for. It's not great, I understand, but I kind of like it. It's a great box set, but will it come out in 4K? I hope so. Look, I think everything should come out in 4K as long as the transfers are great. I don't know if they are going to come out. Secular Monk says, thoughts on Kino Lorber's releases this year. Great work. Hey, just to be a little bit of, if I can be self-serving, on October 25th, which is, what is that? It's not this Tuesday, it's next Tuesday. Brian Singer's The Usual Suspects comes out on Blu-ray. Why does that excite me so much? Because The Usual Suspects was the first disc I produced myself. I roped in some of my friends. All the special features that we did for The Usual Suspects DVD, unfortunately, they were in standard definition, but we got all the suspects. I'm really proud of those documentaries. I roped in Dave Parker to edit those documentaries. He did a smashing job. Carrie David, who is now a director in her own right, great documentarian, she produced with me, and that disc was very well reviewed when it came out. Our special features have been out of print since 2001. And so if you're a Usual Suspects fan, Kino Lorber is putting it out on Blu-ray, and like Valley Girl before it, which we also did for MGM, that was out of print for a long time, Shout Factory put our special features back into print. Our Usual Suspects special features back on Blu-ray, but this time on 4K. I mean, yes, they're done in standard def, but they're great special features. Very proud of them. Coming out on October 25th. So yes, I'm very excited. Kino Lorber has been killing it. They announced Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3. Their 4K discs, I mean, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which is a great disc. They've been killing it. Kino Lorber has been killing it. Going to talk about Kino Lorber in a minute. So Secular Monk, all good. Eloy Diaz has been a member for 2 months. Thanks, Eloy. Appreciate that. The Alex Zorba has been an Imagination connoisseur for 3 months, so thank you for that. Appreciate that. Binary Sunset Media says, we are all fans. Keep it up, Rob. That's what she said. I try. I will always be a fan. I can't not be a fan. SVS Guru 2000 says, in my last super chat, I said I was stoked for Picard Season 3 because the Enterprise F. However, the rest of the trailer did the opposite. I saw depressing, dark, violent action schlock, and if it's anything like the trailer, it's going to suck. Well, SVS Guru, let me tell you. I'll just flat out say it. I've seen all of Picard Season 3 twice. I'll admit it. Seen it all twice. It is not dark, violent action schlock. It's much more of a mystery, a slow burn mystery that has various components to it. The trailer that was released has certainly everything that is there is in the series. There is so much more. There are main characters that weren't even in that trailer. So I'm telling you, I've seen it. Trust Bobby B here. Star Trek Picard Season 3. Now, not everyone's going to love it. And there's going to be people that point out its shortcomings or whatever. And I'm not saying it's perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but it is like getting the next generation feature film that you've always wanted to see over 10 hours. I guarantee you. I cried twice. No lie. I mean, tears, man, tears. Which, to be fair, the first movie I ever cried in was Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. Second movie I cried in was Color Purple. What can I say? When Nettie comes back and sees Seeley for the first time since she's been to Africa, after Seeley's endured, I lose it every time. Just saying. Just like when Kirk says, of all the souls I've encountered in my travels, his was the most human. I lose it. It's good. You'll like it. Damn it, Spock is a new member of the PGS community. Well, damn it, Spock, you're welcome here. The Alex Zorba says, I miss your better half, Dieter, but the show must always go on. Good time to call George and ask about Excalibur 4K, amongst others. Keep on rocking. Now, here's the thing. I've talked to George. George has told me some things. By the way, George Feltenstein, to talk to George. You know what's interesting? When I talk to George Feltenstein on the phone or whatever, I hear his voice, just his voice, like the sound of his voice puts a smile on my face. Not because of the great work that he does, just because you can feel the love of cinema oozing out of him. I love that guy. He's doing the Lord's work. Look, Warner Brothers is a tumultuous place. Did you read Deadline this week? I mean, they might as well have taken half the studio lot out back and shot him and left him on Forest Lawn Drive. As a matter of fact, they're just down the street. They could have taken half the... Luckily, I didn't see his name. I've been scared to call him. I didn't want to ask, but hopefully, next year is the 100th anniversary of Warner Brothers. They got a lot of good stuff coming out. I don't know about Excalibur 4K. I'm hoping that'll go to Criterion, to be honest. We'll see. But yeah, who knows? Stubble McShave said, Naked Gun is my most anticipated movie after Dune 2. For those of you who don't know, I don't know if Liam Neeson's going to play the new Frank Drebin or it's going to be in continuity into the Naked Gun universe. They're rebooting Naked Gun with a director who worked with is one of Lonely Island. I think it's a great choice. And as somebody pointed out on the John Campea show, the great thing about the Naked Gun movies is the people in them don't know they're in comedies. The in-universe thing, they don't know they're in a comedy. And that's why those movies are funny. The deadpan nature of it all, I hope it's great. So, Stubble, you and I both. So Joel Rolston says, hey, Rob, I know it's been a concern of mine for a while, but this day-and-date release also cuts into the cable release. Streaming can't get all of the profits, can it? What does this mean for cable? That's a very good question. I mean, here's the thing about streaming for the studios. The thing that makes the most sense about streaming is they're getting all that money is going directly back to them, and they have great cash flow. What I don't understand is why this idea that we're going to move over to streaming and sacrifice theatrical. What streaming does is it allows you. So here's the way I see it. Streaming allows the studios, if they have their own streaming services, Disney Plus, HBO. Disney Plus is obviously Disney, Warner Brothers, HBO. And we don't know what's happening to HBO Max, how they're gonna, the bean counters are gonna destroy HBO Max. I hope not. But so Warner Brothers has HBO Max, NBC Universal has Peacock, Paramount has Paramount streaming. Sony does not have their own streaming service, and Lionsgate is making deals and putting their movies elsewhere. What streaming does is allows cash flow into the studios on a regular basis. Cash flow they've never had before. But the theatrical marketplace is what can put them into huge profitability. You still make great movies theatrically, like Top Gun. Look, nobody thought Top Gun was going to make $1.4 billion worldwide, and anybody that tells you they did is lying. But once you have a movie like that comes out, that movie becomes a crown jewel. And are people going to... The real question is, let me ask you kids out there, have you ever signed up for a streaming service because of one movie? You might sign up for a series. Got to watch House of the Dragon, you'll sign up for HBO. When it's over, you get out of HBO until they have another series, then you'll resubscribe. That's what people want to do. The streaming services should concentrate on the fact that, hey, if Warner Brothers brings back, I don't know, if one of their movies, if Black Adam is great, when House of the Dragon's over next Sunday, a week from today, you might want to stick around just to have their superhero movies or something, or you're not. But that's what they should be concentrating on, is what big theatrical releases do. Nobody signs up for a streaming service to see a movie. Nobody does that. They'll digital download them or whatever. People sign up for streaming services because there are multiple things people want to see, whether it's multiple episodes of a TV series that'll carry you through for 10 weeks, like House of the Dragon or Andor or whatever. A movie, a big movie, does not make people subscribe to a streaming service. I don't care what analytics people have, just it's common sense. But a collection of movies or a collection of great programming will keep you there. Like if you watch House of the Dragon, you've got 8 years, you've got 8 seasons of Game of Thrones. Ray Ora on the John Campea show has never seen Game of Thrones. I mean, he doesn't pay for his HBO Max, he uses John's, but he'll go back and watch those episodes again. And then you'll stick around. Then you might watch The Deuce. You might watch The Wire. You might go back and watch The Sopranos. Who knows? Or where the hell's Dream On, people? Come on, man. I need my Martin Tupper. Bring me back Dream On. I don't know why you haven't. But so anyway, Joel, day and date cuts into profitability. I don't know. Cable, they license things to cable and make more money. What can you do? SVS Guru 2000. This is the one thing, man. People ask me this all the time. SVS Guru 2000 says, I don't know how much anime you watch, but have you seen Cyberpunk Edge Runners on Netflix? A fantastic series, and I loved it. Man, let me tell you, I'm more of an old school super and real robot guy. I mean, give me Go Nagai, give me Get a Robo or Get a Robo G, which was Star Avengers here in the United States. Give me some Gundam, give me some Macross, give me that stuff. Dougram, whatever. Space Battleship Yamato, Legends of the Galactic Heroes, those are my jam. But people have been talking to me about Cyberpunk Edge Runners. More people, you gotta watch it. I'm gonna watch it because people say it's so cool. I'm in. And I do like anime movies. Look, I love Satoshi Kon. I loved Tokyo Godfathers. I love Perfect Blue, Millennium Actress, and Paranoia Agent. Mary Forrest got me into Paranoia Agent. I love that. It's great. And I do love stuff like Weathering with You, but those aren't series, those are movies, which I dig, I like anime. But my favorites, if you guys have not seen Legends of the Galactic Heroes, you got to watch it. Don't go, not the remake, the original OVA series. It's my favorite thing. If somebody came to me with, if Apple came to me and said, Rob, here's $1 billion. You could make anything you want. What would you do? I would do 55 live action episodes of Legends of the Galactic Heroes. How do I know 55? Because there's 110 of the animated episodes that are half an hour long. I put them together like they did with Sandman with 2 issues an episode. I would take $1 billion and I would make 55 episodes of Legends of the Galactic Heroes. I'd go shoot it in Europe and it would be fucking awesome. And I'd do all the effects work at Weta. That's what I would do. That's my dream, Ray Kinsella. That's my dream. So there you go. Binary Sunset Media says, I consider myself a vinyl person, but for movies. The theatrical experience is like a concert, and maybe I carry over that elitist attitude. I don't know how you can consider yourself a fan of movies and solely stream. Binary Sunset Media, me neither. I don't know. You know, you go into a theater and you get that experience, and it's the best. I mean, it's the greatest thing ever. Isn't that what you want to do? Donnie Pearson said, I'm sorry about the Mariners, dude. Donnie Pearson said, speaking of Seattle sport, my Seahawks are hosting the Arizona Cardinals this afternoon. More info on the NFL website. Oh, God, man. I got to have Uncle Pete. Uncle Pete's got to bring it out. I hope we win. Come on, Uncle Pete. You got to make it happen for us. So I'll tell you what. I've got the news coming. So what I'm going to do, since Dieter Bastian isn't here, or maybe he wants to come on, I don't know. I am about to put the link to this show in the live chat. And if you've been here before, hang back. I want to see if somebody who hasn't been here before will actually come. Because who knows if they will or not. I don't know. I mean, so we'll see. We'll see who's going to come on. Why can't I get somebody to come on? I don't know why. Hang on. Let me reconnect. Disconnect. I'm going to reconnect. Put it in. And then I'm going to see if anybody's going to come on to this show. There we go. It's in the live chat. Let's see who's going to join. Actually, you know what? I'm only going to bring on one person. So if you see one person, you're waiting in the waiting room. But we're going to do news. News is up next. News is up next. We're going to see what's coming out. Maybe no one will jump on. Who knows? News. You know what's coming out in 4K? I know you were waiting for it. My Best Friend's Wedding. 25th anniversary. Julia Roberts movie announced in 4K. You know you want it. Actually, I don't. You know, I have to say that I think that all movies are made better in 4K. I do. But this is not a movie that I would buy. Not that I don't love Julia Roberts. Who doesn't like Julia Roberts? But this is a movie that I don't necessarily need in my collection, which is fine. It's cool, you know. Doesn't mean you might like it. No judgment. Look at this. Walter Hill's 70s movie, The Driver. We've talked about it, coming out in 4K. Look at that, Isabella Gianni, and there is there's my boy. There's my boy Barry Lyndon. There's my boy. I like The Driver, you know. What can you say? It's a great movie. I love The Driver. And look at this cool like 70s steelbook. Like The Driver, definitely, you know, Ryan O'Neal is definitely looking badass in what is clearly influenced by Nicholas Winding Refn's Drive, because this was one of the inspirations for Drive. Now we got coming out also King Kong, John Gillerman's 1976 King Kong, coming out in 4K from Studio Canal. Now, for me, when I was a kid, I want to say this came out in 76, right? So this and Logan's Run were the big genre releases of 1976 for 9-year-old Bobby B here. I will buy this. I like this movie. I have fondness for it. And it has a great John Barry score. And Jessica Lange looks fabulous. And the dude. And you know what I never forgot about this movie? The name of the oil company, Petrox. You know, Petrox. Charles Grodin works for Petrox. So that's coming out. That's pretty cool. I'll buy that. Studio Canal, foreign disc. Pre-order that on Amazon UK or something. Then we've got Jess Franco's Eugenie, or as we now know it as Marquis de Sade's Philosophy in the Boudoir. Thank God Blue Underground, because there's nothing I love more than European softcore from the 70s and late 60s, or as I like to call it, bush porn. That's right. I've owned this movie before in different formats, mostly on DVD, but this is coming out. God bless Bill Lustig's Blue Underground. Thank you, Bill Lustig, for putting movies like this out in 4K, because God knows you're making us better people. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't have Zombie in 4K. So thank you or New York Ripper. So thank you for that. Marquis de Sade's Philosophy in the Boudoir. Who doesn't want that? I don't know, because I certainly do. And you do too. Now, even though we don't have, this is like low res, it's just been announced, which is kind of cool. is The Italian Job. The Italian Job is coming out on Blu-ray. It is, which is exciting. So we'll see that. And that's coming out. And that's exciting. So who's joining us? Because no one else joined us. But he's got to turn down his sound because I can hear it echoing. So before I bring him on, I'm going to bring him on. But our own moderator, Mr. Tom Jr. Jackson, the man who coined the phrase "we're all goof people," is about to join us here on. He's running around, though. Will he get there before I put him in so I can't hear myself talking? He's going to do it. I'm watching him. I'm making him scramble. It's kind of fun. I'm not going to lie. All right, Tom. I'm bringing you in. I can hear you. Would you like to come on the show? Welcome, Tom Jr. Jackson.
Sure.
He's on Let's Get Physical Media. How you doing, Tom?
Hey, Rob.
What's going on, buddy?
Not much.
Are you feeling goofed? Are you feeling goofed today?
I'm feeling very goofed today. I actually just
I have to say you buy some really interesting stuff. I gotta hand it to you because you buy some good physical media. Your tastes are very upscale.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I got from Kino Lorber, my friend. Tank.
Okay, I saw. You know what? I wanted you to talk about that. So was it last week? Someone brought up this film, the movie Tank, the James Garner movie.
It was Darth Plato.
Darth Plato, right? Our friend Darth Plato, who's also Darth Plato, who has a very smart guy who always has interesting commentary. He brought up Tank that last week on the member chat. That's when he brought it up. Was on the member chat. Yeah, I like that. So, and have you watched it? Have you watched Tank?
It's in the list. I've been going through my list of doing reviews, and I have these movies I watch. And when I watch it, I do my notes. And this is up next, so it may be later today. I might watch it.
Now, tell us. You started your own YouTube channel,
right?
Now, what is the name of your YouTube channel?
The name of my YouTube channel is Something Chat Show with Tom Jr. Jackson.
Love it.
I have not started up the interviews yet because there's a person I've been trying to get a hold of.
Who might that be?
It would be you, sir.
Me. Well, we have to rectify that. We got to do that this week.
Yeah, because I want you to be the first interview.
Well, count me in.
It was funny because when you mentioned Tank, I'm like, wait, I think I've seen it on Blu-ray. And I went on Amazon as you guys were talking about it. And this, my friend, is from Kino Lorber. They could put this out, but they can't put out To Live and Die in L.A.
Okay. It's been over a year. It's been, it's funny. In our movie room, the new movie room, I have a beautifully framed under UV plexi. It's mounted on linen. I have a Polish To Live and Die in L.A. Original movie poster. It's too big to put in the movie room because I'm getting my Italian Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan poster reframed, and the French Amélie poster that Elizabeth got signed by Jean-Pierre Jeunet. I got to get that framed, which has never been framed. So that's going up. But
that's a great movie.
Oh, Amélie?
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite movies of all time. Top 10.
That's a beautiful movie.
That's what Elizabeth and I bonded over. Was Amélie, because it was in our online personal ads. I'm like, oh, anybody that loves Amélie, I'm definitely can be friends with.
I use that advice that you give about going to see movies. I tell people when they go on dates, don't go to eat first. Go to the movies first.
Yep.
Then go to eat, because then you'll have something to talk about rather than sit there going, Well,
it's always odd. It's always odd. Like here's the thing. You know what's great about a movie is that it's hard to sit next to somebody in their personal space that you don't know very well. And when you go to a movie, if you can be at ease, and it's hard, like on a first date, if you go see a movie, and if you go see the movie first, you can be at ease with somebody in their personal space sitting next to them in a movie. Like, especially if you're a dude, you can smell a girl's perfume, which I love. You can learn about her. with just sitting next to a person. And then so by the time you go out to dinner, the ice has been broken, and you obviously have something to discuss. John Campea, that's John Campea's love advice as well. He says that too.
Yeah.
By the way,
the last video that I put up is my review of Red Heat.
Oh, and that's Kino Lorber too. That was 4K.
No, no, that isn't. No,
was it not?
I got it on 4K. It's Caracolo.
Oh, is it? Is it? Yeah, okay.
And I'll tell you this: it holds up, but it looks like one of those because it's so dated. It looks like an actual parody of one of those 80s cop movies now. But what an amazing cast. Gina Gershon, Peter Boyle. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that stuff was great.
And I just got Arsenic and Old Lace, too, from Criterion.
Right. That just came out. That's a great movie.
Great movie. Yeah.
Now, is that a 4K disc? Is it 4K?
No, it's on Blu-ray. I don't know if they put it out on 4K. I know it came out on Blu.
It's a 30s movie. So, look, I like everything in 4K, but I can understand. And Criterion's crushing it. You know, they're putting more and more stuff out on Blu-ray. We'll see more. Speaking of Blu-ray, you know what else is coming out? This is interesting. The Halo TV series from that Paramount Plus aired is coming out, and it makes sense because it appeals to gamers, but it's a limited edition steelbook. Halo in 4K is coming out, which is pretty cool for those people who like Halo. I just like the fact that Paramount Plus, I mean, they've been putting out, obviously, Star Trek Picard and Lower Decks and stuff, but they haven't put out any Star Trek in 4K in terms of the new series. So this is in 4K, which is pretty cool. They're also, Kino Lorber, I think it's Kino Lorber, maybe it's Columbia, putting out Adaptation. I love this movie. I love Adaptation. So I'm very excited about Nicolas Cage is in that, and it's really, really good. So I'm really excited that this is coming out in 4K. So that's a cool title that's coming out. And also, they have announced, not surprisingly, they have announced House of the Dragon. Season 1 is available, going to be coming out directly to 4K, whereas obviously Game of Thrones has come out in 4K, but it took a while for it to come out in 4K. But House of the Dragon is going direct to 4K, and that is exciting. So I don't know if that's something you would buy, but I'd probably buy it. I mean,
I just read that something about House of Dragon. It was that it's not leading up to a Game of Thrones type ending. Something like that. That was one of the headlines.
Yeah, it doesn't. I mean, George R. R. Martin came out and said they're probably going to go 3 or 4 seasons, which if you know the source material, that makes... I mean, basically what happens is war breaks out, and it's pretty much like a great game of tennis at Wimbledon. It's back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and it's what you would expect. There aren't a lot of questions like what's going to happen with the Night King and what's going to happen, north of the Wall. Or there aren't those kinds of questions. It's very much what I love about this is it's very much more a historical drama that, as opposed to Game of Thrones, which is kind of an out-and-out fantasy series, and you're dealing with the end of the world. Like, is Westeros going to succumb to the White Walkers or whatever? But this is more history in the sense that it doesn't have that kind of apocalyptic thing going on. So it won't end like Game of Thrones, but because when it ends, the Targaryen dynasty continues on after House of the Dragon. It just is in a very, all the players that we're seeing things change in their lives. It becomes a very different place for them. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. By the way,
also I put it in a chat for people to go on to Twitter and to tweet Christopher Landon, who is, by the way, Michael Landon's son, to tell him to come on the show.
Oh, well, that'd be great to have him come on the show. Or
do you remember that show, Highway to Heaven?
Of course.
It was based. Do you know where the idea for Michael Landon to do that came from?
I do not.
It was his second wife was a huge fan of the movie The Bishop's Wife.
Oh.
And she went, this would make a great series. And that's what the idea for Highway to Heaven came from, is the movie The Bishop's Wife.
I did not know that. That's
I
interesting.
didn't know that too till I was doing some research on it the other day because I was watching it.
Interesting. I didn't know that. By the way, I wanted to read Danzig 1979 says, "Hi Rob, miss you Dieter. Would you know if Warner Brothers has plans to release the 1990 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in 4K? I don't know that, but that seems like a great a no-brainer to release for Scream Factory or Shout Factory. I
Yeah,
could
I remember
totally see
going
them.
and seeing that at the movies too when it came out.
Yeah, I could imagine that for
Yeah,
sure coming out on from somebody like that. So we're gonna
yeah,
do the quick news of the releases of the week. The top 10 Blu-ray bestsellers for the week ending on October 8th. Thor: Love and Thunder, DC: The League of Super Pets, Fright Night, Army of Darkness, Jurassic World Dominion, Star Trek Picard Season 2, Scream 2, Minions: Rise of Gru, Elvis, The Munsters still on the list, and Bram Stoker's Dracula, the new remaster. Now these are the Blu-ray bestsellers. Now we get into the top 5 home media sellers. Now these were the overall bestsellers of all home media, and the percentage of Blu-ray shares are there. So Thor: Love and Thunder was number 1 with 58% on Blu-ray. DC's League of Super Pets, 51% on Blu-ray. And this is I guess good. Star Trek Picard Season 2 was a big bestseller because Star Trek fans collect. 52% were on Blu-ray. Hocus Pocus, the first Hocus Pocus, 21% on Blu-ray, which means most of those sold were probably either 4K if it's coming out on 4K, or I would imagine DVD, because for the kids. And then Jurassic World Dominion, 57%, obviously a number 1 title. That's on Blu-ray. Now here's the really depressing for those of us who like 3D. Everything else is I love that. Okay, here's the top Blu-ray 3D bestsellers for the week. Top Gun 3D and Wizard of Oz are the only ones on the list. Top Gun represents, of all the discs sold, percentage of units sold, not even 1%. It's 0.46%. And then and the Wizard of Oz in 3D. So I have both of these too. The Wizard of Oz, 0.03%. That means they probably sold like 2 of them. So, boy, too bad 3D. Maybe you'll make a comeback one day. And then here you have the UK UHD titles. These are the best-selling 4K titles of the week. Scream 2 in 4K, Fright Night in 4K, Bram Stoker's Dracula in 4K, and Army of Darkness in 4K. Those 3, if you look at the percentage, those are catalog titles, and they dominate in 4K. 97% for Fright Night. That disc is great. Bram Stoker's Dracula, 97%, and Army of Darkness, 97%, and change for all 3. Those are new 4K releases and all worth getting. By the way, look out for Bobby B's screen credit on the end of Army of Darkness. And then the Halloween Collection 4K box set, which I haven't got mine. Mine was delayed. I don't know why.
You know the box set, the Friday the 13th one that you got, that big square one.
Yeah.
That one is now cheaper on Amazon. It's like $80 something now.
That's a great box set. If you like the Friday the 13th movies are not high art, but it's a great box set. A lot of really great special features. A lot of fun. That disc is a lot of fun to have.
And one of the Jasons, the actors who played Jason, just passed away.
Yeah, I know.
He's 98.
Kind of sad.
He was 98 years old.
Amazing, right?
And he was also John Wayne's stuntman.
Mm-hmm.
As well. And
it's
so I was
crazy
talking
to think
about this.
The first Friday the 13th is 42 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so weird that these franchises, Halloween's 44 years old. I mean, we're still
Nightmare
getting
on Elm Street will be 40 in about 2 years.
Yep.
Or about a year, maybe.
In 94.
Or so.
I mean, it was 1984. So, yeah, that's crazy, too. I mean, all these franchises. War Games, I think Kino Lorber, is it Kino Lorber or Shout Factory that's putting out War Games? Or maybe it's Columbia. War Games is going to be 40 years old in 84. Or no, in 83. I mean, next year. War Games.
And I think they ended up doing a sequel to War Games, which was just like a sort of like a rehash of the original.
Yeah, but it was weird, and they did it as like an online thing too. But
which the original one was as well. But like technically, like a technical online where they used the actual phone, and that's a great movie. Like those movies back then were great.
Yeah, and John Badham in 1983 had 2 movies come out. He had War Games and he had Blue Thunder come out. I'd love to get Blue Thunder in 4K,
You
and they'll
know,
probably do it because it's
I
Columbia.
was when I was doing my research for Red Heat, I didn't realize Red Heat was a big hit. Not only
Yep,
was it a big hit, but it got overshadowed by Twins because
yep.
Twins came out that same year and it was bigger than Red Heat. And when Schwarzenegger made Red Heat, he was 40. So that means in 2028, Schwarzenegger is going to be 80 years old.
Wait, Schwarzenegger's going to be 80 years old this year?
No, in 2028
Oh,
because
in 20.
in
Okay.
because Red Heat came out in 88 and he was 40 when he made the movie. So he'll be in his 80s when it
I
turns to
mean,
the
it's
40th
it's
anniversary.
crazy that because we've all grown up with these people. It's crazy to think that because you think of them as stopped in time because you have these you go back and you watch these movies, and it's hard to. So, is there anything you're looking forward to coming out? Or like, have you been watching House of the Dragon?
What am I looking forward to coming out? I'm looking forward to because I got coming this month. I got Bullet Train coming this month. I
Yeah,
got Nope coming. Um, because I really like Nope.
yeah.
I did. I thought that was a great movie because I was at the point watching it where I was leaning forward so much and didn't realize how far forward I was sitting. And when that first jump scare came up, I went flying back into my seat.
Yeah. Yep.
But it's a fun movie, and I think there might be a commentary on that one, and if there is, I want to know why decisions were made on certain things for that movie and what influenced him to make it, because that is a very original movie.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Stub McShave has an interesting question. He sends in a tip and says if Tarantino brings back an older, still active actor in his next movie like he did with Bruce Dern, who would you like to see? For me, it would be Anthony Andrews from The Scarlet Pimpernel, Terrence Hill, or Bill Shatner. Rob, you can't pick Shatner. You know, the thing about those are all good choices. I mean, I think the thing about Tarantino is he brings back actors that were I mean they were badasses or they delivered certain indelible performances in movies that he liked growing up. And like when he brought back Robert Forster. And
Right.
he didn't bring back Robert Forster because he was a Black Hole fan. You know, he was bringing back Robert Forster for other films. I mean, maybe lesser known B pictures or I mean, I would love to see someone like James Remar, even though he was on Dexter as Dexter's dad, and he's not been gone. I could
No,
see Tarantino giving James Remar a great
he's a
role.
he was great in Red, where they were at the airport and they're trying to question him, and then he gets shot.
Yeah,
And it's like you don't expect that to happen. I mean, he's like the guy where he's not really big in a movie, but he's in those movies to a point where you're like, okay, there's that guy. He was in the Dream Team as well.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I really like I like those actors, and as they get older, like the Michael Ironsides of the world. Like I love Michael Ironside. Bring him back. I don't know if Tarantino would bring back Michael Ironside because a lot of the touchstones that Tarantino has are actors that were active in the 70s. Not that Michael Ironside wasn't. He was in a movie with Shatner. He was in Visiting Hours. But
It's a great shot in a movie is Kingdom of the Spiders.
Yeah, they just showed that at the American at part of Beyond Fest. They showed 3 Shatner movies. They showed that. I think they showed The Intruder, and they showed the movie he did in Esperanto. Um,
Yeah, I
and
can't remember the name of it, but I remember reading his book the book called Up Till Now, and he talks about doing that in Esperanto.
yeah,
That's a great book too. He
Incubus.
writes some really
Incubus.
he writes some great books as well.
Yeah, no, he absolutely does. Um, and Leslie Stevens, Outer Limits, made Incubus is a really interesting movie. But yeah, and Shatner. But the thing is, I don't know, like Shatner at 91, like anybody at 91, are they as with it? I think Shatner could pull it off because he's still, he did that comedy with Gene Smart, that came out last year, and it was pretty good. He was pretty good in it.
Yeah, he's great. I mean, he's 91. He's still. You see him interviewed, and he looks like as if he's still young and knowing all the cylinders are firing, and he's having a blast.
Yes, he is having a blast. So, I wanted to touch on before I end the show. There's some great stuff coming out next year or next week.
Rob, what's the name of the train disaster movie with Shatner from 1979?
The Cassandra Crossing?
Yeah, because PM Ferreira was asking about that.
I don't even know if he's in the Cassandra Crossing. Maybe that's not it. That's the first train disaster that came up. It might not be him. That's 76. It's not Cassandra Crossing. I don't know. Let's find out. I don't remember. I don't know. Let's see.
And also, big shout out to Mikey Lito, who's been sick lately. He got the COVID.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Oh, that's not good.
Yeah.
How's he doing?
He showed up. He showed up a little bit today in RM's stream, which, by the way, folks, don't forget, tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, ladies of the PGS.
Indeed. On this channel. Check it out.
Yeah. With her guest co-host, Lorena Creel.
Yes, who's great. So 79, let's see. Disaster on the Coastliner. It's a TV movie. That's why I didn't know that. Disaster on the Coastliner, which, by the way, the Coastliner here in LA doesn't work anymore because it was going to fall. The beach erosion caused them to shut down. Boy, but by the way, this has a great cast. Lloyd Bridges, Raymond Burr, Pat Hingle, E.G. Marshall, Yvette Mimay. Wow. I'd watch that movie. And It was directed by Richard Sarafian. All right. A vengeful employee of a computer-controlled railway arranges a head-on collision of passenger trains. Can it be stopped? I've never seen this movie. I would totally watch it, though. So there you go.
What is that? That sounds like Unstoppable.
And Gerald Fried, he of Star Trek fame, he did the music, he did the score. Wow, that's cool. So what I was going to say is what I didn't look at, or what I was going to read you what's coming out next week on physical media. So let's and there's some really good stuff. Next week is a big week. So we've got Bullet Train, as you said, in 4K is coming out. Yeah. Return of the Living Dead in 4K is coming out. Can't wait to get that. Batman and Superman, Battle of the Super Sons is coming out, if you like that Warner Brothers animation. Tropic Thunder in 4K is coming out. One of my favorite films, if you've never seen this, the Japanese horror film Cure by Q.C. Kurosawa is coming out. I love that movie. It's great. If you haven't seen Pulse or Cure, and you've never watched Kurosawa's films, not Akira Kurosawa, but Q.C. Kurosawa, check them both out. That's coming out. That's definitely something.
Are they related?
No, I don't believe they are. No Escape is coming out domestically, or Escape from Absalom, the movie that Martin Campbell directed, which is cool. The Innocents, which is the movie that Dieter keeps telling me to watch, that's coming out. I have that on pre-order, so that's exciting. And the Razor's Edge, the Bill Murray the movie, The Razor's Edge, which I reviewed for my high school newspaper, is coming out, which is kind of interesting.
And he only made that movie. He got to make that movie because he did Ghostbusters. He said the only way he would do Ghostbusters is if he could make that movie.
Yeah. Yes, that's true. And so that's coming out. So there's a couple of good titles coming out. Bodies is coming out. The 20th anniversary of The Ring is coming out, but it is not in 4K, it's a steelbook which is a bummer.
Is this the newer version of The Ring or the original?
No, it's the new version with Naomi Watts, which is actually quite good.
Yeah.
Quite good.
Yeah, I remember seeing that at the movies. I used to have the whole DVD set of all the original Ring movies.
Yeah.
The Ringoos. I love the Ringu films.
They're good. And then they had The Grudge and The Ring versus this, so which I haven't seen the Japanese version. So
Amazing that hasn't been done yet here.
No, they haven't. Those versus
It's
movies.
coming probably.
Yeah, it probably one day. Well, listen, Tom, I'm going to end this show. We've been on for 2 hours. I can't believe without Dieter, I'm talking with you. Dieter will come back next week. We'll do a big show next week, closing in on Halloween. Right before.
Is there a member call next week as well?
There will be a member call next week. I haven't talked to Roberto Suarez about it, but there will be a member call next week, which we will do.
I think
if you're a member of this channel
a little while ago.
Yeah. So for those of you who are members of the channel, we'll do another member chat next week, which will be fun to do. So that's always exciting. Well, Tom, thanks for coming on the show today.
Thanks, Rob.
And good to have you. And
I'll get in touch with you this week. We'll set up a time and we'll do the interview.
Yes, we will. And as everybody knows, remember, every person you meet has a story to tell that you have yet to hear. And all you have to do is listen. And with that, I would say to all of you, have a better day. It was great to have you, even though people can hear us still, by the way, talking, chatting. And what's wrong with that, Tom? What's wrong if people hear us? That's what we're doing. We're giving people the post-credit stinger. They're still listening. They're wondering what's happening, and but that's okay. Yeah, I have that. I have 6 copies of To Live and Die in L.A. But I don't have one. I don't have one in